Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to discuss black and white versus color in terms of editing. So when do you take the decision, or when you make the decision to convert your photo to black and white, or when it's more suitable for the image to be edited in color? When you're planning your photo to be black and white, from the minute you're photographing, this turns out to be a much better black and white image rather than just converting a color photo to black and white, simply for the reason that, well, it's not working that well in color. So it's time for me to switch to black and white. But either way, I will show you a few examples, a few photos. I have Photoshop open here, and let's do some editing on those images, and let's do some conversions to black and white. See the color version and the black and white version, and just use the comment section below to tell me what you think about this. I will start with this image, which is a sunrise during winter. We were here at the workshop on top of a mountain. So whenever you are having this kind of a color into your photo, converting to black and white may sound strange, because yeah, you're having all those beautiful colors. Even though we are used to perceive snow as being white, it's nice to have a little bit of tint in the snow, either blue or yellow orange, depending on the situation. In this moment, for example, I'm having a little bit of blue and a little bit of orange in the distance, and the only thing that I'm going to do with this image is just add a curves and introduce a little bit of contrast to the image, and that's it. It only needs that to make the image pop. Now I could do a little more editing to emphasize this central area. So I will merge all the layers into one layer, open camera raw, filter on this image, and I will take the exposure a tiny bit down, and then I will include a radial filter. Let me just reset the settings for this radial filter, put it somewhere like this, and simply increase the exposure, keeping the highlights down to preserve the highlights. Okay, and now let's introduce a little bit of brightness to the image and a little bit more contrast. So the original image is this, and this is the edited version. Very few changes or very few edits done with this image. Not always you need to spend a lot of time editing the image. If you have the proper conditions, the proper weather conditions, everything is okay. Now let's do a very quick black and white conversion. And my favorite way to do black and white conversion is to have here the black and white color scheme, and then apply simple gradient map to the image, and then you can just go beyond go beyond with contrast. When you're editing in black and white, the first mistake that you can do is to not explore at its maximum potential the contrast that you can add to your image. I think that people are more forgiving when they see black and white images with the amount of editing that you put into an image. So you can put as much editing as you want. If the image is black and white, people will dig it. It's no problem. Nobody will tell you that the image is over edited when the image is in black and white. So what I'm going to do is again merge all the images, again open the camera raw filter, and now what I'm going to do is decrease the exposure even more and increase the contrast, and add another radial filter, but this time let's use it only for this area first, this area over here, and then I'm going to simply create another one simply for the light that it's coming from the sun. Okay, now let's move on to curves, and let's go berserk with that contrast, and we can even raise the blacks a little bit, the darker shadows. So we can have this. Let's group these two. Now this is the color version and this is the black and white version. In this case, in my personal opinion, the color version works a lot better. There is no reason for you to convert this image to black and white. Let's go to another one. This is a waterfall, and again, in terms of editing, let's just add a brightness and contrast and decrease the brightness a tiny bit and increase the contrast, and then add another brightness and contrast and increase the brightness, increase the contrast, reverse the mask because I don't want to have let me just pick a round soft brush. I don't want to have this the effect of this brightness visible. And now I'm going to paint, and this mask can reveal again the brightness of the streaming water over here. And if you are looking at this image, there's not a lot in terms of color that is happening. All the stones are wet and are brownish dark. There's a little bit of green over here, but I don't think there is that much green in order to justify a color image. So let me just merge everything. And if I'm going to do a simple black and white conversion with gradient map, you see the image looks a lot better. The water pops. Now you're looking at the waterfall. So black and white is a very effective way to focus your attention on a certain subject or focal point. Let's move on to this next image, and let's duplicate this and open it in Camera Raw, because there are some edits that I can do quicker in Camera Raw. So I will add a gradiated filter to the top, and I will decrease the exposure in this area, and then add another one at the bottom, and then simply add a radial filter. So I'm doing the minimum edits. Of course, that if I would have to spend time with these images, I would be a lot more thorough, but I think it's perfectly okay for this video and to demonstrate some points. Okay, and now let's go with the contrast. And since it's a moment near sunset, let's go into the color mixer, into the hue, and change the hue of the orange and yellow and move them a little bit to the left, thus changing the hue of yellow and orange more towards red. And then we go into the saturation panel, and we just increase the saturation on these colors. So yeah, we're having this very simple and quick edit. And let's do again a black and white conversion, but this time let's use the black and white adjustment layer. So we can try and add a little bit more contrast with this black and white layer. Let's add a curves to adjust the contrast. Okay, so the color version of this image and the black and white image. Now in this case, I don't think there's a clear win from the black and white image, even though it's a beautiful colored image, it's sunset. I don't think it's that much sunset, so you don't really get that warm feeling completely, thus enabling you to accept the image in black and white. And for example, in this situation in black and white, we can go a little bit further and we can add or increase the attention in this area by adding another radial filter over here. Let me just reset its local setting, and I will increase the exposure and preserve the highlights. Okay. So color version, black and white version. It works. I think it's about 65 to the color and 35 or 60-40, something like this. Let's move on to the next image. And for example, this one, I think it's a clear win for the black and white. I mean, take a look at this, and I will do a simple gradient map. Nothing more. It's this or that. And immediately the feel of the image changes. And there are situations when, I mean, you're having color here. You're having the blue of the sky, the green of the grass, the yellow orange in the building. But either so, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's working. The black and white version works perfectly. Okay, let's move on to this next one. And again, I'm gonna edit it very quickly in Camera Raw. So add a gradient filter to the top and decrease the exposure to make the clouds more dramatic. Increase the shadows a little bit. Okay, and now add a radial filter. I will add it first to this. I will add it to this area and increase the exposure. And then I will add another one over here. Okay, so we're having these two radial filters. Let's add another one in this area. Okay, and another one over here. Okay, perfect. Now, in order to be fair, I'm going to use the color grading on this one to try and maximize the effect on this color version of the image. So I will introduce a little bit of blue in the shadows and a little bit of orange yellowish in the midtones. And then with the curve, I'm going to do the contrast, but I'm going to raise the point over here that represents the true black in the image. Okay, so we're having, this is the original, this is the edited version, again very fast. And now we're having the gradient map and the simple contrast. And you decide in comments below, which one do you like best? This one, for example, or this one? By the way, this rock over here, it's called a whipping stone because it looks like an old man whipping. The eye, the nose, and the mouth. I hope everyone sees the resemblance. If not, let me just point it to you. The eye, the nose, and the mouth. I know I'm very good at drawing, so you don't need to say that much. And this is the last image that I want to show it to you. So again, let's use the Camera Raw for convenience and for the fact that I can edit very, very fast. Decrease the exposure and then simply add a radial filter in this area and increase the exposure over here and then another one over here. So these are the only things that I'm doing to this image, and then another brightness and contrast to increase the contrast on this image. And now I'm going to black and white, but in the reversed way. And again, I'm doing the contrast. So you're having the color version and the black and white version. So as you can see from these edits, black and white, it's not necessarily an option for you to use only to save an image that doesn't look that well in color. So if you are going, for example, in midday and you're photographing in midday, and because of the hard shadows, you say, okay, I'm going to edit them in black and white photos and it's going to be okay. Black and white is not about that. You can convert an image based on its color scheme. If the color scheme is really reduced or the colors kind of look the same, then yes, you can go to black and white, and this can help you separate better the subject or the point of focus. But thinking about black and white images before and thinking about, making the decision when you're going to make the final image in black and white and when you're going to make it in color makes a bigger difference simply than simply doing the edits. So let me know in comments below, what are your thoughts on this topic, black and white versus color? In terms of editing, we're not talking about the planning and how do you think about black and white, photographing black and white images or color images when you're out there on the field. Let's do that in another vlog. Today we're talking black and white versus color images in terms of the editing decisions that you want to make. Let me know in comments below what you think, if you have tips, if you have suggestions, and until next time, keep on photographing. It's the only way to get better. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.